What's up, y'all? You're watching Union Minded. I'm your host, Eric, and today we're going to talk about some labor news updates because it's been a busy week for labor news. There have been a ton of victories for contracts and union votes at different small stores all across the country. There has been a few losses as far as wanting to become union, like, for instance, the Trader Joe's up in, I believe it was upstate New York. They voted down the union. So there's been some losses, but a lot more win than losses. But the two that I want to discuss, because the two things that are happening this week that I think makes a major impact. One of them is the Teamsters ratified the very first national contract at Costco. Now, Costco has already had the reputation as being a very good place to work. Now they have a national union contract, which is very, very good news. The second thing is that a second railroad worker union has voted no to the tentative agreement. And those are the two stories that we're going to talk about today. But before we jump into those two stories, I need you to hit the like button. I need you to subscribe. I need you to ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. I need you to drop some comments, and I need you to share these videos because we do have to continue to grow this channel. The influence is growing as we grow. The membership grows every week, and you guys are doing an amazing job, but I need you to keep it up so that we can continue to grow this channel and continue to change the game as far as our representation as workers and our effectiveness when we want to carry out objectives. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's go ahead and go with the good news first. Which is that the Teamsters ratify the first ever national contract at Costco. Now, this is reported at prnewswire.com. It's news provided by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. This dropped October 21st. So I'm going to go ahead and read from the article and react as I read, I guess. So, new master agreement protects 18,000 Costco workers coast to coast. The Teamsters made history today, securing a new master agreement protecting more than 18,000 workers at Costco nationwide. Ballots were counted at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time before an independent observer in Portland, Oregon. And the agreement was overwhelmingly ratified by a vote of 72%, with a record high voter turnout from the membership. Don't let anyone tell you the days of achieving national master agreements are over. Unions can protect American workers on a national scale. The Teamsters just proved it at Costco, said Teamsters General President Sean M. O'Brien. The Teamsters Union pulled off something that anti-labor activists would have you believe is impossible. Our massive network of local unions and army of organizers makes us the most powerful union in the world and the most equipped to protect as many workers as possible. This is an earth-shaking win for Costco workers and the American labor movement. Corporations like Cisco, UPS, and Amazon remain on notice. The national agreement provides members with significant wage improvements over the next 3 years and a substantial increase in pension contributions by the employer. The contract will also provide members with high semi-annual bonuses and a more flexible attendance policy, among other workplace improvements. In May, the Teamsters Costco National Negotiating Committee unanimously recommended a no vote against the company's initial contract offer. On June 21st, Costco Teamsters rejected the offer by an overwhelming vote of 93%, paving the way for today's national contract victory. Now, I want to pause there for a moment to just kind of consider this. In May, the negotiating committee unanimously recommended a no vote. Now, I've been to many a union meeting where the new contract idea is being presented to the membership. And while I have voted no in contracts past, the past two specifically, I voted no. The first time around, I was one of only 32 people to vote no, while also during the course of that contract listening to everybody complain about the contract that won out overwhelmingly. And then the second go round, The no votes increased by a large number. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 no votes. But unfortunately, we had, again, far more yes votes. And so the contract was ratified. But what I wanted to point out is that the negotiating team that negotiates our contracts, I've never heard them come back and say, hey, this deal sucks, you guys should vote no. Never. Every time they come back, it's like, this is the best we can get. This is the best we can do. We're not going to get any better. You got to vote yes. And that's been like, they sell the contract to us. So this is so interesting to hear that the negotiating committee came back and said, no, this is a bad deal. You guys should vote no. And the membership agreed and voted, took their advice and voted 93% against that contract, paving the way for today's national contract victory. This deal wouldn't have been possible without the participation of members across the country. Workers were united from the start, letting the company know we deserved more and that we weren't afraid to fight to get it, said Henry Chavez, a shop steward at Local 986 in Los Angeles, who participated in negotiations. This is truly a historic day for Costco Teamsters. We are now part of a national master agreement that will protect workers for years to come. Throughout negotiations, rank and file members like Chavez played an instrumental role in the bargaining process, attending talks and providing feedback for the National Negotiating Committee. This national agreement wouldn't have been possible without the engagement and activism of our members. Their refusal to accept anything less than what they deserved was the key to our success, said Tom Erickson, director of the Teamsters Warehouse Division. When workers pushed back on Costco's first offer, it gave the bargaining committee the power and leverage necessary to make enormous gains at the table while simultaneously solidifying the national agreement. Imagine that observation. When workers pushed back and said no, it gave the bargaining committee even more power and even more leverage to demand a better contract. This isn't rocket science. Our members at Costco stood up for their rights and won big, said Mike Burgeon, Local 166 Secretary Treasurer and Chair of the Teamsters Costco National Negotiating Committee. They weren't afraid to strike if necessary, and the company knew they weren't bluffing. Today's victory was for the workers, by the workers. You gotta love it. Founded in 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters represents 1.2 million hardworking men and women throughout the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. Visit teamster.org for more information. Follow them on Twitter at Teamsters and like them on Facebook at facebook.com/Teamsters. Go Union. So it's through solidarity, it's through standing together to make sure that your voice is heard. And through those actions, they were able to get a national contract that actually was far better than the one that they rejected. And that is awesome. That's our first story. Solidarity forever, man. Congratulations to the Teamsters on that Costco win. I, for one, as a humble union electrician, am proud of you guys and happy to have you guys in the fight alongside us. Now, on to the second story. This one's out of Politico. Remember, I told you the railroad strike the workers were not happy with that tentative agreement. I told you that weeks and weeks ago. And now the second labor union has rejected the TA. So as Politico reports, let's talk about it. Second rail union rejects deal raising strike threat anew. Wednesday's vote by the Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen makes it the second rail union to reject a compromise since mid-September. This article is written by Eleanor Mueller and Tanya Snyder. Yet another union voted down a proposed contract with the freight railroad industry Wednesday, again pushing the nation toward an economically crippling rail strike as soon as next month. Wednesday's vote by the Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen makes it the second rail union to reject a compromise since September 15th, when 11th hour deal making by the Biden administration averted the threat of an immediate work stoppage. Oh, how they tooted their own horns, how they tooted and tooted and tooted after that midnight meeting. Told you not to dance before the song was done. You guys are tripping. Despite that momentary political victory, a strike could still happen as soon as November 19th. Unless 12 rail unions approve their contracts or Congress steps into the fray. Another looming dark cloud for the U.S. economy as voters head to the polls for the midterm elections. The stakes could not be higher. The freight rail industry, which is responsible for moving some 40% of long-haul goods, is critical to the nation's economy, including supplies needed for electricity and drinking water, not to mention commodities like food and gifts for the holiday shopping season. For that reason, Congress would face immense pressure to intervene if a strike appeared imminent. Democrats have so far resisted calls from some GOP lawmakers and the railroad industry to force both sides to accept the recommendations of an emergency board appointed by President Joe Biden. That compromise would raise workers' pay by 24% over 5 years, but did not include paid sick leave, a major sticking point in the negotiations. I'm glad that they haven't weighed in. I hope they continue to not sit there and come in here and try to bully the workers. If anything, if you are going to weigh in, Democrats, if you are going to sit there and start to pop off at the mouth, let it be at the railroad companies who are being unreasonable. Don't you dare start coming at the workers, especially being that we're your entire base. You better go after the right folks. The Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen initially said its cooling off period, during which it may not strike, would end November 19th, like another union that previously rejected its contract. But the unique language of its agreement with the railroads makes it possible that the period will end December 4th, so it'll push it back a couple weeks. As the president has said for months, any shutdown would be completely unacceptable. You're right. Put it on them rail workers, the railroad owners, those companies. Y'all need to pony up with the sick days, man. What the hell is you doing? Why is it so hard? Hire more people. You got billions in profits. How about you pump it back into the company and make it run more efficiently with more personnel and make it safer for the workers? How about that? No, let's do stock buybacks and make ourselves richer. White House Press Secretary Catherine Jean-Pierre said Wednesday, "It is the responsibility of the parties involved to resolve this issue. Any idea that kicking this to Congress will result in a quick and favorable outcome is deeply misguided. That is our view from here. Though any strike would take place after the midterm elections, even the possibility of such an economic calamity happening on Biden's watch endangers Democrats' credibility on handling the economy. Just weeks ago, when a compromise brokered by Labor Secretary Marty Walsh temporarily averted the strike threat, the White House projected confidence that the problem was solved." Told you. It's not clear if the negotiators who were negotiating on workers' behalf knew where the red lines were when it came to time off, said former Treasury Department official Christine McDaniel, now a senior research fellow at the Mercatus Center. Why didn't they bring it up during negotiation, especially when you have the Secretary of Labor, a member of the president's cabinet, involved in the negotiations? That's really the time to make really clear what your red lines are. They want to be in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. I mean, who knows what was said in that room? Maybe the negotiators did say that the sticking points was days off, and everybody scoffed at that because, here in this country, we pick ourselves up by the bootstraps there, killer. Get out there, pick yourself up, and get to work. I don't know. I wish I was there, though. I'd love to hear what was going on, to be a fly in the room, a fly on the wall. Walsh declined comment on the latest vote. So far, 6 unions, representing about 20% of the 125,000 workers covered by the proposed contracts, have voted to ratify their deals. One out of those 6 is the IBEW workers that are a part of the workers that are dealing with this. 2 unions, representing around 25% of the workers, have now voted no. So imagine, 6 unions, representing about 20% of the workers, voted yes. 2 unions that are representing 25% of the workers have now voted no. But just a single union voting to walk off the job could trigger a nationwide shutdown because of other workers' reluctance to cross a picket line. That's called solidarity. Solidarity. More than half of railroad workers have yet to ratify the new contracts. And that includes the International Brotherhood of Boilermakers. They haven't voted yet. That comes November 14th. District 19 IAM votes on November 5th. The Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen vote November 17th. And Smart Transportation Division votes November 17th. The Yes Men are the Brotherhood of Railway Carmen. They voted yes. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers voted yes on September 28th. Told you. Transportation Communications Union voted yes. National Conference of Firemen and Oilers voted yes. American Train Dispatchers Association also voted yes. And the Smart Mechanical Department voted yes. All right, let's continue in the article. Railroads and their unions have tried for 3 years to negotiate a new contract, eventually forcing Biden to appoint a board to work out a solution. That solution is part of the mix of contract negotiations, though many of the involved unions are negotiating for more. A September 16th shutdown threat was averted when 3 unions that hadn't yet reached a tentative agreement with the railroads agreed to one in the early morning hours of September 15th. None of the remaining votes scheduled through late November are foregone conclusions, but rank-and-file workers have expressed widespread dissatisfaction over their working conditions, including longer times away from home, extended on-call schedules that could order them back to work on their days off, and insufficient paid sick leave. They say the Biden-backed board's proposal would, as well as the contracts put forth by the carriers, don't do enough to address their concerns. Quality of life, quality of life, quality of life are big issues for these railroad workers. They're being abused as far as their quality of life goes. Our members are upset, said Ron Behrens, General Secretary Treasurer for the Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen's largest affiliate, Union Pacific General Committee 88, noting that the Union Pacific rail carrier just reported a $1.9 billion profit in the quarter that ended September 30th. That's tough for members to take when they don't want to give us an extra day or two of sick leave, Barron said. Union Pacific spokesperson Kristen South said it's untrue that rail employees do not get time off work, adding that no Union Pacific employee has been fired because of missing a single day of work. And we actively assist employees who encounter hardships that require time off. She said the railroad is working with union leadership to pilot a work rest program that we hope to learn from and implement more broadly. Another hang-up for members of the Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen: cost of living adjustments for workers who live in expensive states like California. Our guys are hired by the railroads to make sure no one dies at a crossing or dies on the tracks from train mishaps, said Doug Dawley, General Chairman for the union's second largest affiliate, Burlington Northern General Committee 12. That's how important it is, what we do, and yet our guys make less money than food servers do in some parts of the country. The independent cross-union group Railroad Workers United is organizing workers to vote down the tentative agreements. It's very telling that these workers are willing to vote no to this contract, said Ross Gruters, a member of both Railroad Workers United and a 25,000-member Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen. He said the 2 unions that have voted no so far are not subject to the worst provisions of the tentative agreements. So it's very telling that people that don't even feel the worst effects of this contract are willing to vote no. It's a strong signal. The freight railroads say their workers get 3 to 5 weeks of paid vacation, partial pay in case of a short-term disability, and the freedom to mark off, which means to temporarily remove themselves from the list of available employees at any time and for any reason. They also say federal law limits the numbers of hours rail workers or rail employees can work and guarantees a certain amount of rest time. The Biden board's recommendations remain the framework for an agreement. The coalition that represents railroads in bargaining, National Carriers Conference Committee, the NCCC, said in a statement last week after the Brotherhood of Maintenance and Way Employees Division issued fresh demands, now is not the time to introduce new demands that rekindle the prospect of a railroad strike. The timing of the union votes works in favor of the prospect of lawmakers again extending the cooling off period to allow the talks to continue without the threat of a strike. That's because Congress will have returned from its post-election recess only 5 days before the current cooling off period expires. The alternative is to let Congress write our agreement, and I'm not really comfortable with letting them do that, Barron said. We've got labor-friendly congressmen and senators, but how adept are they at writing a labor agreement, you know? None of us want to put the economy at risk, he added. But it comes to a point where you've gotten all you can get this round. The workers themselves acknowledge that the option of congressional intervention has left the possibility of a real strike all but out of reach. A strike isn't really likely, Dawley said. It would be an opportunity for the employees to show they're upset, but it wouldn't be anything where we could do it for a week or 10 days because it wouldn't be allowed. We don't get to control that. The railroads know it. We know it. The railroads know it, and we know it too, he added. The Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen's national leaders did not respond to a request for comment. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers voted overwhelmingly to go on strike in September, when it became the first union whose members rejected their contract the leaders had agreed to. Instead of striking, the union leadership extended the cooling off period to allow more time to negotiate, a decision that led at least one local leader to slam leadership for undermining the collective voices of all Class 1 railroad workers. Josh Harford, an official of the Machinists and Aerospace Union, responded that the move had been difficult but strategic. Historically, Congress has gotten involved anytime there has been a real threat of a rail shutdown, he wrote to the disgruntled official. When Congress gets involved, we lose. Big news, big news, big news happening this week in labor. And I don't know if you guys heard a whiff of it. So I was hoping to bring it to you, and I hope you found this video informative. My name's Eric. You're watching Union Minded. Please keep in mind that the fight is not left and right. It never has been. It's always been up and down. And it's going to take solidarity to win always. Each one teach one. Get out there and reach one. Peace.